Classic rock fan. And I know, some of the founding fathers of classic rock pretty much come right out of the Byrds family right there. There was Gene Clark, there was Roger McGuinn, Chris Hillman, and eventually Graham Parsons. So the Byrds are a big influence on my show and in my life too. So Gene Clark, as one of the original founders of the Byrds, along with David Crosby of Crosby, Stills and Nash, Mr. Clark released 7 studio albums, 3 live albums, 10 compilations, 2 EPs, and 10 singles. He was commissioned by actor Dennis Hopper, and the latter also with Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson, and Easy Rider with Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson to write tracks for Hopper's film American Dreamer. Clark's songs have been covered by Linda Ronstadt, the Flying Burrito Brothers, Leo Kottke, the Eagles, Pure Prairie League, Bonnie Raitt, Tom Petty, Velvet Crush, U2, Robert Plant, and Alison Krauss, and many others. Gene Clark passed away in 1991, but his spirit lives on, and it will now forever in the Missouri Music Hall of Fame especially. So do we have family members for Gene Clark? Can I welcome you up here to accept the honor?
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Can we start off on introducing yourselves?
Yes, I'm Chris Clark Davis.
I'm Bonnie Leibel Clark.
Brian Clark.
And I'm Dan Clark.
Okay. And y'all siblings or?
Yes.
Yes.
All siblings, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. And where y'all come from?
We're all from around the greater Kansas City area.
Excellent, so not that far to travel.
No.
No.
Yeah.
And we have relatives on the East Coast and the West Coast, and somewhere in between. And I have a little
You go
thing
right
I
on
would
ahead.
like to present. As I said, my name is Chris Clark Davis, and I am the middle child of 13. 13 living siblings. We had one sister that was born and didn't live very long. In the middle of all that. So what I remember, what I remember of Gene, we grew up around the Swope Park area, and as younger children, we had a lot of room to roam, and Gene was always the adventurer. He always had something, going on, and was always exploring the surroundings and everything of that area. And that was the inspiration for his song, Something's Wrong, and for the fields of corn on early summer mornings till late afternoons. Those were real things, guys. They were real. And I remember the green bean plants, and they always made me break out. I hated them. So anyway, along with that, his song Kansas City Southern was inspired by the Kansas City Railroad line that went right past our place where we lived over there near Swope Park. And later on, when we moved to Bonner Springs in 1960, Gene wasn't around home a lot. He started working with our dad and was gone quite a bit of the time. But he's also inspired, has written about the little town of Tonganoxie in one of his songs called Mary Sue. And by the time he left home, I think I was probably about in 6th or 7th grade. And I had always known that he was a good singer, but I had no idea until in recent years, his music legacy. I mean, he had no idea of all the songs that he had written and recorded, and I always knew that he was out there. When we were kids, he was with the New Christy Minstrels starting out, and we had gone to see him perform at UMKC when they were in town, and the whole family, the 13 of us, well, the 12 of us other kids, went to see him, and and then we later on, I think it was when he was with the Byrds, there was a TV special on in the family in Bonner Springs who owned the Ford dealership there had invited us all to their home so that we could watch it on color TV, because we didn't have one. And I had seen him in concert a few times after that, after the Byrds, and he performed with different groups that he had formed. And one time in particular, I remember it was in the early 80s, it was a Byrds tribute band that he had together that was playing at the Midland Theater in Kansas City. And after that performance, we had a chance to visit with him for a little bit, and I remember one young lady coming up to him, and at that time he was wearing a cross around his neck on a chain. And this little gal said, "Is that for real?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean, is that for real?" And she says, "Well, are you a Christian?" And he said, "Yeah, yes, of course I am." And so I know that even though he had his struggles, that he would eventually end up in the right place. So to that, that means to me that there is no misunderstanding, as is one of his songs, that he didn't sell his soul to brighten his role. To this day, I'm still learning about the music that he's written, and am amazed at the amount of it that there is that has been recorded, especially by artists like Tom Petty, Alison Krauss, and Robert Plant, Linda Ronstadt, and many others. I also remember the Turtles singing the song "You Showed Me," and thinking that was such a cool song when I was a kid, and I had no idea that my brother had written it until many years later. So, and recently there has been a lot of recorded music that was studio recorded that was in the mid-60s that has been released. At the moment, the name of the CD escapes me, I'm sorry. And like I said, to this day, there are still lots of, probably lots more out there that we haven't heard yet. I want to personally thank a few people that have put this presentation together that was given to the Missouri Music Hall of Fame, and that's made this evening possible. And they are Paul Kendall of Four Sons Productions, who, and with his sons, created the documentary, Gene Clark, The Bird Who Flew Alone, Wayne Casper and Leslie Allen, who are here this evening from Tipton, Missouri. And Gene was born in Tipton, Missouri, and his place of burial is also in Tipton, Missouri. Tom Sanford, who is from Ontario, Canada, and Miss Ingrid McNamara, who is from New York, and they started the ball rolling to get everything together, to put together this the presentation that was sent to the Missouri Music Hall of Fame. And with that, I want to just say thank you to the thousands of his fans worldwide.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of the entire Clark family, including his sons Kai and Kelly, who live in California. And oh, one more thing. With that being said, the next step, let's get Gene into the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
There's a petition.
And now welcome Gene Clark into the Missouri Music Hall of Fame.
I'll picture, but she's the wordy one. But, I wanted to share a personal memory of Gene.
Absolutely.
He was just he's 5 years my senior, but just a little shaver. And Dad was the music teacher
Yes.
in the family, our father. And the only instrument in the house at one time was a Tennessee flat top box. And if you're familiar with what that is, it's a big box acoustic guitar. And I recall that the body on that thing was about that wide and about that thick, and the neck on it had to be at least that wide. I may be exaggerating because my fingers have always been short and I never could get my arm around on the guitar. But Dad tried to teach each and every one of us, particularly the boys, how to play guitar.
The flat top box.
The flat top box.
Johnny Cash and Roseanne Cash and
And,
Cowboy
uh,
Copus made that
and,
their popular instrument.
And Gene would sit down in a chair and lay that guitar down on his lap to learn how to.
That is a good story.
Dad not only played guitar, he played mandolin, harmonica, and late in his life, a chord organ.
So he was the music teacher in the family. And some of us went on to vocal music, and I did through my career in school, and then also as a Christian minister, used my voice to present the Lord.
There you go. Amen. Hallelujah.
Really amazed. You know, there have been times in my life when I felt disconnected from my brother, but tonight you've all helped me feel more connected.
Yes.
We're all related musically.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.